My name is Jim Jarvis. Today I'm going to be presenting Week 1 of the Bar-On's Emotional Intelligence Competencies, focusing on the interpersonal scale. We'll be covering self-regard and self-awareness. As we begin looking at the emotional quotient or emotional intelligence scales, we want to understand what the terminology means. In this case, we'll look at interpersonal. Interpersonal, as defined by Merriam-Webster, occurs within the individual's mind or self. An example would be interpersonal concerns of employees. Interpersonal focuses on self-awareness and self-expression. In other words, before we can influence others, we have to have mastery of ourselves. There are 5 components that make up self-awareness and self-expression. The first is self-regard, or the ability to accurately perceive and understand and accept oneself. The second is emotional self-awareness, or to be aware of and understand one's emotions. The other 3 will be covered in later weeks. Martin Zwilling in Forbes magazine wrote an article titled, "How to Increase Self-Esteem and Success in Business." Self-regard can also be known as self-esteem. When looking at entrepreneurs, Zwilling found that negative examples of self-regard were arrogance, ego, lack of respect for others, low success rate in endeavors. And then when he looked at not just the entrepreneurs, but also at the employees of the entrepreneurs, he found them to show or manifest low confidence, poor productivity, low or no job satisfaction. As Zwilling examined self-regard, he turned to Mashenko's 8 steps to help build business self-esteem to help understand how the negative effects of low self-regard can be countered. In this case, Mashenko looked at identifying the qualities and skills most closely linked to your idea of success. In other words, look for those who are successful and try to pattern after them. Next would be to identify your current strengths and establish plans for improving. It's a real important point to play to our strengths rather than our weaknesses. We also have to be on the lookout for new opportunities to grow our talents and experiences. Opportunities don't typically just happen, we have to make them or be on the lookout for them. Next, we need to identify and redirect unhealthy competition and comparisons. It's not fair for us to compare ourselves or our weaknesses to other strengths. Instead, we have to focus on our strengths, understand our competition, those that we really want to compete with, and then focus or compare ourselves in our areas of strengths to other strengths, and that gives us a good perspective on how we're doing. Next in Mashenko's list is the importance of forgiving ourselves for mistakes and poor decisions. Any entrepreneur, anybody who tries anything is going to make mistakes, and holding ourselves guilty or shaming ourselves for doing these things is counterproductive. Making mistakes is how we learn. It's part of life's journey. However, it doesn't mean that we can't be accountable. We are accountable and have to hold ourselves accountable for the actions and decisions we make. Again, that's how we learn, that's how we make changes, and that's how we improve. After that, we have to develop a pattern of self-talk. Self-talk is how we validate our worth and our abilities in our minds. As we speak to ourselves, we think about ourselves, we have to validate or confirm our worth and the accomplishments that we're making. Lastly, we can't focus on what we cannot control, or in other words, focus on what you can control, not what you can't. We can control how we think, feel, and act, but we can't do that for others. Any expectation of that will just end up in disappointment and probably cause us problems. Zwilling concluded his article by saying, "In my experience, the most common cause of entrepreneur failure is giving up too early, rather than running out of money." In other words, we have to put more value on our self-regard. Self-regard pays. That's a great investment that will pay back throughout the life of our venture. Next, for our competencies under the interpersonal category is looking at emotional self-awareness. An article by the Change Management Coach considers self-awareness the keystone of emotional intelligence. In an arch, the keystone is the peak of the arch that holds all the other arch stones in place. If we can recognize and understand our emotions, we then will have the power to control them. We can actually do something with them. The competencies, I've mentioned this term a couple of times, are the things that we need to be good at, that we need to be competent at, and they're associated with our self-awareness. Emotional self-awareness breeds accurate self-assessment and results in self-confidence. And self-confidence is where the power is for us to accomplish things that we want to. When we are trying to become more self-aware, we need to identify ways in which we can do this. Again, the change management coach came to help us and identified 3 ways in which we can do that. We can become aware of our strengths and areas of development. One of the first things that he put forth is to keep a journal of our feelings. We want to know what happened to us in a given circumstance, and then how did we react or feel about that? What was our emotional response? Next, we can make a list of our roles, the things that we do each day, whether it's at home, work, or in our recreation. And then we need to know how we feel about each role that we play. When we look at a given situation where we're going to have to interact, typically we have some idea about how we're going to feel or what we can expect in that situation. So it's not completely a surprise. Where possible, we want to look at a situation, anticipate what we can expect in terms of interactions, and then plan out how we're going to react to those reactions. This way we don't get caught off guard. That's one of the great problems is we don't expect something that catches us by surprise and we don't react properly. The main idea here is to put ourselves in control. In the end, after we've assessed our emotional quotient, our emotional intelligence, and evaluated the different competencies or skills that we need to have in our emotional intelligent world, the question should be asked, what are the managerial or individual implications of these findings? The main thing that we can take away from this is that when we take control of our emotions, when we understand them, we know how to apply them, use them, and then we can also look at others and understand their emotions, we'll no longer be at the mercy of our emotions or the emotions of others. Instead, we will take control of them and be the determiners of our own destinies. This concludes the presentation on self-regard and self-awareness. On this slide, you'll find references to the different articles used in the presentation. Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed it.